Well, Richard, you've contributed towards this middle management report by covering the subject of stakeholders, how middle managers relate to the various stakeholders in organizations. Perhaps you can explain a little bit about who these stakeholders are and how middle managers now and in the future might relate to them.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. For me, the whole essence of stakeholder management is key to the way that companies should be running their businesses to deliver value. It's not a woke thing looking at stakeholders. This drives value. And by stakeholders, I include customers, employees, suppliers, the communities in which you exist, and of course, shareholders. And the all the talk in recent years has been around the shareholders. Well, if shareholders want great value, they should ask their companies to focus on stakeholder management because that's where the value comes from.
So we know a lot about customer relations being important to organizations, and I guess treating your employees well. Uh, what's the kind of how does the role of middle managers fit into both those relationships? That are obviously, managing employees is part of what they do, but how about their relationship with the customers and maybe suppliers and shareholders?
I think it's all around the focus that you give middle managers and tell them how and where they can add the value that they can do to those individual stakeholders. If you take customers, there's plenty of research that shows just how much companies can improve their profitability and their returns if they have the highest levels of customer centricity is the word that's used in the industry. But companies that obsess almost about focusing on the customer and what middle managers can do to help the people below them and the people above them is to see where their role adds value to the customer, outside customer, by serving, in many cases, internal customers. Because if you're in finance, you may not be in a middle manager position. You may not be relating directly to customers outside, but they should be able to see how, as you satisfy your internal customers, how that links to them being able to satisfy external customers.
Yeah, I guess that's very, very true because clearly the frontline employee is facing the customer all the time in customer-facing industries, retail, and so on. And often the managers, middle managers in particular, might be quite invisible. They're in the back room, whereas the directors are perhaps more publicly visible. So what we're saying is one of the ongoing roles of middle management is to maintain some level of visibility outside the organization. Not often, I think we think of middle managers being like part of the admin system inside the organization. But what you're saying is, as a critical part of their role, is relating to the outside world.
Yes, absolutely that. And too many companies don't reflect that at the moment, which is why the middle managers have come under some disrepute and questioning because they tend to be too internally focused. But it should all be about, if I do my middle manager job well, I will help my maybe internal customer. But by helping that internal customer, I should be able to contribute significantly to how we deliver better customer value.
Okay, so that's interesting because it strikes me that with AI coming in, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, look, the middle manager essentially is an administrator, and they're going to get replaced by technology." But technology, I guess, isn't going to improve that customer relationship, is it? So I guess that's a key reason for maintaining the middle management role in the face of AI threatening it.
Well, well, that's correct, but also strongly around that is the impact that managers, middle managers, can have on the people beneath them as they try to adopt AI.
Ah,
Because without the support that of having somebody who's deeply involved in it, how are those people going to change the way that they do things, adopt the new behavioral ways that are necessary if a company is going to make AI work? Because everything we understand says it has to be adopted by all employees. And the middle managers are the key to ensuring that implementation.
yeah, because I guess there must be a temptation for middle managers, particularly under time pressure, to kind of delegate, abdicate almost to some AI system that supposedly makes the decisions they used to make, but doesn't relate to the employees or well the stakeholders, to the employees or the customers or anybody else. So I think what you're saying in terms of stakeholder relationship, there's a lot of personal human contact that can't get replaced by AI because they relate that middle management to stakeholder relationship, whoever the stakeholders are, is in essence a person to person relationship. Is that what we're saying?
I think so, Peter. I, I, I was reading some research done by McKinsey in their Rewired piece that talks about the importance of re-engineering, if you like, for a terrible term, the um, the workflow design, so that when you do until you do that, anything you implement will not make sense in the new world. And middle managers are the key to because they know that workplace design at the moment. They know the way that work gets done. They know who contributes and who doesn't contribute, and therefore are a major part of, or should be a major part of, how that is redesigned.
Okay, so
And
we're
then
saying, yeah, it's a part of work redesign. I guess is bringing it's mastering the technology, the merging of the AI in particular, but technologies in general with the human aspect is key to what the middle manager is doing internally. So relating the employees to technology, but then also externally as well, I guess, in terms of the other stakeholders. There's a role for middle managers in making sure that technology doesn't overtake or uh, bastardize, if you like, the human relationship they should have with all the stakeholders.
absolutely. And if you think of the middle manager's role in helping their employees to understand and adopt this new methodology, that's going to be key because they're going to be able to motivate those people into learning what they need to learn and adopting it piece by piece and through so that it does get consistently and deeply embedded in the company as it changes.
Okay, so this is the part of the coach role of the middle manager, uh, passing skills on and encouraging skills in their workforce.
Absolutely. Because if you don't have that middle manager role there, employees are not going to jump what would have been two levels to try and get advice on what they should be doing.
Yeah.
It's too many people will be trying to do it, and it won't work. You need to have somebody there that the employees can go to, who is respected, who understands the concept that we're trying to achieve in this implementation.
Yeah, who also understands, I guess, the less tangible things about working for an organization, the employee culture, the kind of acceptable or not acceptable behaviors, and so on. Because I know that there's been a lot of publicity about the fact that AI is getting rid of some of the entry level jobs. So if a new graduate joining an organization or a school leaver doesn't get a job at the bottom learning the ropes, or they don't have a middle manager there to emulate, to set an example, how do they learn? And
Yeah,
AI can maybe write a manual or run a video or something to train people. But part of the learning to work process seems to me has to be from from management in general and middle managers in particular.
I think that's exactly right. And if you don't have that middle manager there to provide the knowledge and the coaching and the help, then the employee begins to adapt it to his or her own way of doing things, which is not going to solve or deliver the value that the AI is there to deliver.
Yeah.
And we know that if employees are motivated, trained, and coached, they are much more likely to grasp what's needed and to adapt what's needed and to adopt what's needed. And if they're not coached, trained, and shown how to, then the risks occur.
Yeah, so this makes a strong link between the learning of the employees, their development, and productivity, and therefore ultimately for the shareholders as a stakeholder, return on their investment in the organization. But it still strikes me as a strong pressure from the media, if you like, or just the publicity given to AI that it's replacing people, replacing management, knowledge work in particular. So what argument do you see middle management or organizations using to fight back against that in terms of what the connection between good management and productivity or the bottom line ultimately?
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of data that shows what the value that highly engaged employees deliver to the bottom line. And if you're going to ask them to adopt new behaviors, new workflow processes, etc., they're going to need guidance in that. And when I was talking with someone the other day, he said, well, but what, they'll still be worried about their jobs going to go. At the end of that, at some stage, we know. But if they've learned the new skills surrounding how do they implement AI and what do they need to do, just think how much more valuable they are and how much more employable they are because they've actually worked on a system that has delivered the value that it's intended to.
Yeah, so when we look at a bit at an old generation of past middle managers who've kind of sat back a bit fat, dumb, and happy in a way because they've got to a certain level in the organization, they've kind of got hidden away in the corner office, as it were, and sort of biding their time to retirement. Part of the administrative machinery, kind of running their annual budget, justifying their existence. I guess what we're saying is they must be threatened a bit by this new role.
I think there's no doubt that some will be. The longer those middle managers have sat in that insular role where they've looked only inwards and never outwards and kept churning out the same reports and asking their subordinates for it in exactly the same way, some will inevitably fall by the wayside. But you can equally say that, well, unfortunately, that's because the company hasn't asked them to change, hasn't requested, hasn't shown the value that they can deliver if they adopt these new behaviors, if they do it differently, if they focus on the customer all the while instead of internally and just satisfying their own little mountain.
Yeah. Also, you talk about satisfying the internal customer as well. I think one of the things we're looking at maybe in the future is more the role of the middle manager being more cross-functional, less managing in a silo, and more being a coordinator across teams. So organizations are going to be less rigid in the future, more networks of individuals, and the middle manager has to have the kind of human skills to cross over between the two. And particularly those human skills are relevant to not just employees, but stakeholders in general. So I guess thinking about relationships with one of the stakeholders where it's a bit distant is with the shareholders or the investment community, who I see as very numbers orientated. Oh, look, we can cut down, get rid of 20%, 30%, 50% of our middle managers, cut cost, and not see the impact, at least for a while, on ultimately the bottom line, but on productivity. Do you see any evidence or any strong argument back against that, or do you think for a while the cutters in the investment community are going to get their way?
I think that's a danger that exists. But I think it's up to the companies themselves, the organizations, to set out the way that they see the vision of how this is all going to work.
Mhm.
And that the middle managers will add great value in this process if they're advised where their value is going to add to the shareholders in the end. Because if you focus on your customers, you focus on your employees, that will deliver significant benefits to the shareholder. And so the company, as opposed to being dictated to by its shareholders, needs to look at that in advance and to plan for that so that they can actually show to shareholders, by doing this, we have a plan that will make us more externally focused, more customer focused, and will deliver better trained and able employees who will add the value to the return to our profitability. And that's a sell that, to be honest, Peter, if managers and the C-suite in companies can't do that, then the shareholders will have their say, and some middle managers' jobs will go for sure. But then there is the outcome of that may well be different, significantly different to what was hoped simply by their annihilation.
Yeah, it's one of those short-term versus long-term decisions, isn't it? It's easy to cut costs. We've seen it from an HR viewpoint in the past, haven't we? Where, oh, the training budget, well, that can go, because that's kind of cost today investing in the future of our workforce. Oh, well, we'll worry about the future in the future. And the short-termism comes back and bites them in the end. But if, again, it happens where organizations particularly are trying to cut costs because for whatever reasons they're about to sell off or something, that the temptation inevitably to make the figures look good is to cut off something that where the return isn't immediate. And I guess that's what we're talking about here a bit. Investment in continuing the middle management role is one that has a definite benefit over the next 3 to 5 years, but may be a cost that organizations are tempted to slash at their peril, I guess, is what we're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's always that danger that the short term will determine the path rather than the long-term vision.
Mhm.
And when you get into that state, and we've all been there in companies that we've worked with, it's exceedingly difficult to stop the shareholders from demanding their piece of flesh from that. But again, you have to say it's up to the organization itself, it's up to the leaders of C-suite to have that vision and to be able to develop a plan of what they can deliver if we adopt this. And then, if it's good enough, you would hope to get a couple of years to demonstrate that the value is there, the value is coming. We are getting much better returns from our clients. We are satisfying them. We're not just holding our market share, we're increasing it. And once that momentum starts, then you're on the right track.
Yeah, it strikes me there's a parallel here with the sustainability environmental goals of organizations that for a few years were kind of a bit of a gimmick and were not paying lip service to that, and certain diversity and inclusion, some of these things that looked good but were not really being genuinely followed. I think we've got through some of the initial stages. And now I sense organizations and investors are more willing to accept that an organization is going to be around for a longer term and be more profitable in the end if it is investing in greener technologies today, if it's investing in a diverse workforce and so on, even if some of the shorter term goals involve increasing cost. I guess, I mean, it's always been true that, say, the Japanese and other cultures, value things longer term. The Western culture we know are very much driven by this quarter's figures kind of thing. But I sense a little bit more of foresight amongst the investment community as one of the key stakeholders. Do you see some of that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I do think it's incumbent on the people in the C-suite to be able to set out their vision for where the value from sustainability, from a diverse workforce, all of which we know can add value to an organization. But you have to be able to set that out. And I think previously, some of this was set out as aspirational, sustainability. It's the right thing to do. Well, it's not just the right thing to do. It should and will add value to the bottom line if it's done correctly.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's the circular economy or however it's managed, there is value there. But if management can't demonstrate that to the shareholders, then I'm sorry, that's a fault of the management, not necessarily damning on the actual sustainability intent or the diverse workforce.
And interesting, I see two movements here. One is like the B Corporation, so organizations more and more signing up for sustainability, but also upward pressure on middle and senior management from employees who personally value, have possibly are more environmentally conscious than the previous generation, and who choose their employer or choose not to go work for somebody because of the genuine green, sustainable goals that they have. There's a lot of greenwashing going on, as we know, in terms of organizations pretending. But I think employees see through that quite quickly. And so I think there's an interesting role here for the middle manager, which is being not just paying lip service, but actually being genuinely concerned about some of the longer term environmental and social issues that we know are important, but sometimes get missed in the drive for profitability. So
yeah, and I think that the other aspect of that, Peter, is a lot of the newer employees, the Gen Z people now, want to be able to see how what they're doing adds to the whole business. Yeah. And by approaching this way of stakeholder management, you can demonstrate to them how their role is adding value to their customer, and when therefore their customer then adds value to the external customer, which in turn delivers returns because we'll grow market share and we'll deliver profitability, which will enable us to do all the things we wanted to do.
Great, that's the virtuous circle.
Exactly right.
Let's hope it works. But I think what we're saying in summary is that virtuous circle exists in all organizations of all sizes, but particularly in the larger organizations, there's a key middle layer that makes that happen. And if it isn't there, the circular thing the connections don't happen in the same way. So I think we've pointed there to a key continuing role for something in the middle to manage, even if it's a bit different from the kind of bureaucratic middle management of the past. It sounds like it's more human orientated and clearly customer and employee and stakeholder orientated. Okay. Any last comments? Are you optimistic about the future? How do you feel about where things are going?
Well, at least it's the end of the football season, so I can relax a bit until it restarts and gird my loins again for the new season. But no, I am optimistic because I do believe that the Gen Z people have different aspirations and different beliefs. And I think they'll correct we old guys in the way that we've been doing things within a reasonable period of time. And I am sincerely hopeful that stakeholder management will have greater precedence than pure shareholder value, which has tended to be the way of the last few years.
Yep, that's good. Okay, well, I'm glad we're finishing on an optimistic view, even if not all the football results have been totally as satisfactory as some could have been. Okay, great. Thank you, Richard. It's been great having this conversation, and look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.